What if coming home to yourself wasn't about becoming something new, but remembering what was always there? Welcome back to the Anatomy of Life podcast, where we delve into the elements that shape our existence. This is your audio guide to the building blocks of your life, relationships, purpose, your mind, body, and everything in between. Because at the core of it all is health, the foundation that shapes how we live, grow, and thrive. Today's guest is one of those rare voices who writes from the marrow, not just the mind. Asmaa Alkuwari is a life and executive coach, entrepreneur, digital humanist, and now an author. She's taken the TEDx youth stage with her talk, Flawless and Fearless, Embracing Imperfection, and she's a Forbes speaker. But titles are only a fraction of her story. She didn't just write a book. She offered a mirror. A spacious, honest, and deeply human invitation for anyone who's ever felt unseen, caught between cultures, or unsure of which version of themselves is real. Through her life and work, Asmaa explores identity, shame, cultural complexity, body wisdom, and the radical courage it takes to return to your essence. Her words don't perform, they breathe, they liberate, and today we go there, to that quiet terrain where wholeness begins and the truest self finally speaks. Welcome, Asmaa. I am so grateful to have you on the Anatomy of Life podcast.
Thank you, Lexi, for this beautiful introduction. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You know, I feel like we have a shared mission. We both met at a Doha Women's Forum, and we were talking about legacies and the legacies that we leave behind. And I feel that your book, Back to That, is the start, if not the continuation, of your legacy. And I'm honored to have read it. It's an easy read. It's to the point. There's no fluff. It's a massive permission slip, you know. We'll get into the book now, but just to start off, I'd like you to give us a trailer into Asmaa Alkuwari's life. Who is she, what she does, and how she got to where she is.
Oh, thank you, Lexi. So a bit about me. As Lexi said, I'm Asmaa Alkuwari. I'm a leadership executive coach, author of Back to That. And my mission and purpose in life is to support women to see the most potential they can get and help them get there. I've been privileged to tap into the coaching world since 2018, and it came, I think, when people say you ask the right questions and the answers come and fold into your life. And at that time, I had a lot of questions about, where am I heading? What am I doing? Is this what I want? Is this the life that I have dreamt of? Where have I deteriorated and what's working and what's not? But at that time, I didn't have any answers, but I was curious. And I think my curiosity, still grateful for my curiosity till this day, is kind of what led me into coaching and being in that world. And at that moment, I didn't do the training to be a coach. I actually just wanted to understand myself even more, tap into my potential, and see what is kind of holding me back to reach my dreams and my aspirations. And
I love that
going
so much.
through that journey myself made me realize that I'm sure so many women would want support of such a person that really can help them find the answers to their own questions. And that was the moment I decided I wanted to be a coach. And at that time, coaching wasn't very well known as it is right now, especially coming from someone that understood the dynamics of society, community, culture, tradition, religion, so many different layers that play into our own identity and who we are. And I saw that there was a gap. And coming from where I was coming from and from my own experiences and living this different aspects of different environments affecting who I am and how I've kind of grown up, I wanted to be that person for women specifically. And that's when I decided to become a coach myself and deliver into that purpose of how can I support not only myself to become a better version, but also women to lead their own lives and have that possibility of whatever they want to achieve to become a reality.
I'm a health coach as well. I studied through the Institute of Integrated Nutrition. And when I became a coach, when I was studying, I wasn't studying to become a coach. And this is something that I found when I was listening to you at Doha Women's Forum, and I know I've said this to you, but I related so much to you. It's like I had known who you were. It's like our stories connected. And I feel you when you talk about that coaching, because I went through a lot of health issues, and I started learning about health and health coaching and how it's everything from emotion to finance and how we multifaceted human beings and all sorts of things. And that then in turn became, part of who I am. And that leads me to, what truth about yourself did you uncover during the writing of this book that surprised or unsettled you the most?
Oh, Lexi, the whole transformation of writing the book has been another level
cathartic
of healing process that I didn't even see coming. My whole vision or my objective was to kind of share with the audience of the book, which are the women, to kind of have a coach in their hand to give them that basic guide. I've been hearing a lot of women saying there's so much information. We don't know where to start. We don't know what to tap into, who to listen to. There's so many podcasts.
What's true, what's not
Exactly,
true.
what's true, what's not true, and just being lost in all of that. And for me, I just wanted to create that first step for them. But then doing that meant peeling off so many layers of who I am, deconstructing all the different thoughts that would come to my mind, going through all these different topics that some people might see like very taboo, unspoken of, especially in societies like ours, and just putting it on paper. I remember telling my publisher I couldn't sleep the day that the book was published. And I never saw that coming because I felt so exposed, vulnerable at that time, because there's so many stories for whoever will read the book. There are so many stories that I reflect based on my own experience, even before I became a coach. And I feel like a lot of women who have read the book were able to resonate with that. But being able to put it into words in the book and talk about my thought process or the different conversations I would have from the different parts of my mind, or topics that I haven't spoken about to anyone in my life, to put that on paper. And that's you said that it's a legacy, but this is there forever, so I can't take it back.
And it can feel unsettling when you do become so vulnerable.
So much. Yeah.
I feel the same, because even with the podcast, I had started it off with the intention of being impactful, but I didn't realize how much of my unpacking still had to happen through this form of, you talk about somatic, I talk about somatic writing. And some of my podcasts are, I have to write down a script, or I have to relive emotions, relive memories, which cause you to relive emotions. So I totally understand you when it comes to that. I have to tell you something about your book.
Tell me.
You have a word. I'm trying to learn Arabic. For all the listeners who don't know it yet, they should know by now. I live in Doha in Qatar, and this has been my home for 8 years. And I've been trying to learn Arabic. So if I botch this word, please just correct me. It is the deepest, truest self, your essence. And the word is dahat.
That. Yes.
That. So how do you say it in Arabic?
So it's that. So that was the whole concept of writing that in English. And so the title is called Back to That. And if you refer to that, it's like you're pointing to something. But that in Arabic means self.
Okay. And you just pronounce it that?
Yes. Same thing.
Same thing. So I'm taking, because on the front of this book, and I will put it on Instagram, and I'll show the readers and the listeners the front of this book, you have the Arabic word. I'm going to take that Arabic word and I'm going to make a tattoo. I have wanted something to commemorate my time in Doha, because I found it's a place that has really allowed me to come back to that, to help me come back to myself. Yes. And that's why when I got this book, I couldn't wait to read it. And on the front, I was just sitting one day, and we'll come back to how you resonate as well. You speak about a song in the book, and the same way that you had heard the song, I was sitting with your book, and I just happened to see, there's the Arabic word on the front of the book. And I thought, well, that's my next tattoo. So it's going to live on me forever. But it's a way to remind yourself to go back to that. What was the hardest chapter to write, and what made it emotionally or spiritually demanding on you?
That's a good question. I think it was probably the chapter where I spoke about shame, I think for me, that topic still is a difficult topic to talk about, like shame and in terms of body image, shame in terms of emotions, shame in
Yes.
terms of showing up, not fitting into the certain molds of what society thinks you should be. I think that was profoundly probably one of the hardest ones I've written. And the reason behind that is even how much healing you do, how much work you do, there's still some bits and but
To
exactly to
process.
process it all over again, to go through that emotion all over again. And probably that was one of the bigger healing aspects of the book that I've been through, to be able to write it down and
Talk
be
about shame.
very honest with myself, with
Yeah.
my identity as a woman, and with everything that shapes who we are, and just leaving it like that, and saying that it's okay to talk about it. And
Not be
exactly,
perfect.
nobody's
Yeah.
perfect. There's so many ways of how you can define it. And I talk about beauty and how beauty is defined in certain aspects, but who are we to define what beauty is? And
I love
this
that.
is something that I really feel deeply emotional about, because all these certain molds and kind of borders that we identify others in is just a reason to feel comfortable. But for us to
Yeah.
be our own unique self, we need to identify what we think is beneficial, not only for us, but really truly embodies who we are. And I
Yeah.
think shame is kind of the opposite of that. So that's why I wanted to talk about is very as a hard topic, but a profound topic that needs to be addressed. We can't
It
deviate from
has
it
to be.
anymore.
You do mention in the book that we don't have the guts to take responsibility to get to know ourselves, to face ourselves. And I think that's the first step, is to, when you're coming back to yourself, is to look at yourself in the mirror. And for so many years, I've said this on the podcast, I talk to guests about it, I talk to my clients about it. I could look at myself in the mirror for many, many years. And that became a practice, mirror work. And I feel like it's one of the most profound things, is to own your shame, look at your shame, name it. Once you name it, you're able to transform it. And you can then move into a space where you can start to evolve as a person. Shame is going to come. It's part of life, you know. Are you familiar with
Yes,
Brene
of
Brown?
course.
I actually stumbled across her by accident during COVID, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, the way she spoke about shame so openly and vulnerability so openly. And I was like, oh, I'm not mad. I know this sounds crazy, but I actually like talking about vulnerability. Not so much shame, but it's kind of
Yeah.
one in the same. But, you know, she opened my world into vulnerability and shame. And I feel like you are spearheading that conversation in this community we're in, and it's so vital. It's very, very touchy. It is a taboo subject, but you should be so proud of the way that you are going about it. It's very gentle, it's very forward thinking, it's paving a way for many women, especially in this region.
Thank you so much, Lexi. I really appreciate that.
You write with such clarity and air, and you can feel the aspiration in your words. The pages ooze vitality. They really do. The book has such life in it. And page 12, it starts with taking initiative, you say, and responsibility, and with a healthy dose of courage. Your openness exudes freedom and courage. Was there ever a chapter or a topic that made you hesitate to publish it? And how did you move past that fear?
Oh, probably the whole book.
I thought you might say that, you know. And how did you move? You spoke about your editor. Was there ways where, you know, when you got stuck, did you have a toolkit that you would go into to help you get through that? I think they call it writer's
Yes.
block. Did you have a toolkit?
I did go through writer's block. I did go through moments where I was convincing myself that I needed to write, even though I was blocking every single emotion of not wanting to write it, because I felt that I will expose myself, and I didn't know if I wanted to go through that route or not. And there is, I think, in one of, I can't remember which chapter, but there is a chapter where I actually write down the conversation of what went in my mind for me to stop myself from writing a chapter. So it was kind of confronting even my thoughts of coming back and forth in terms of how I'm facing my own fear of showing up, my own fear of other people's judgments in my writing. But then at the same time, always reminding myself why I do what I do. And I think this is what's keeping me going. No matter how hard the conversation is, no matter how hard the journey is, always look at the
Just to show
exactly,
up.
just show up. It's the consistency of showing
Yeah.
up for yourself, and you said it, taking responsibility of there are so many purposes and powers that we have that are beyond our measures, but we are destined to take it through because we are at the end responsible for what we bring to this world. And I feel like this was a key message that I wanted to like exude and convey through the whole book, that if I was able
Yeah.
to do that, and I'm no different than anyone that's reading the book. There's no difference in how I was brought up. It could be different, but then you show up as
The
yourself.
message is
Exactly, the
the
message is the
same.
same. And if I was
Yeah.
able to do that, so can you.
We were just talking about what is normal, what the idea of what is normal. How do you stay
Yeah.
honest as a writer when you're writing about something as raw as the soul or the essence, when you're exposing yourself?
That's a good question. How do I stay honest? I think it's so I truly, truly believe in journaling and writing your thoughts and processing your emotions and everything on paper. And the more
Yeah.
you keep your pen on the paper, the more honest you will be automatically,
Yeah.
because it's coming with an openness of you confronting you. It's not a matter of showing up for other people. It's not about who's
Correct.
around you. It's about you against you. And just knowing the process thought of your own emotions, your thoughts, what you're thinking without any judgment. I feel like when you stop judging yourself, this is when you can become the most honest.
With the institute that I studied through, we call it morning pages. Now, it doesn't have to be more like you write or journal in the morning. It's just
Yeah.
journaling, basically. We called it morning pages, but everyone calls it journaling. And like you were saying, there should be no judgment. So when I use this as a tool with clients, I always say to them, and there's a lot that say, oh, I don't like writing, I
Yeah.
don't like journaling. I'm like, great, write that down. Write down that you don't like journaling. And don't put any full stops, don't correct your grammar, literally word vomit onto the page. And so many have come back to me and said, wow, Lex, I have written a book now of just all my thoughts and my, they spill out. And I said to them, don't judge the direction, allow it. And the honesty comes in, or I feel, and I'm not sure if you'd agree with this, but the honesty of this would come in because you're tapping into your
Yeah.
unconsciously, because you're actually getting deep into thoughts and you're spilling it out on paper.
100%. That's why they say if you want
Yeah.
some clarity about your thoughts or where it's taking you, write it down.
So talking about morning pages and vision boards, you also use something called the Circle of Life tool, which I use as well. So out of all those tools, the vision board, the Circle of Life, the journaling, which tool cracked you open the most? Not as a coach or an author, but as a woman who needed herself.
In terms of tools, I feel like they're all essential. There's this one exercise, I spoke about it in terms of implementing it on myself, which is parts work, where you bring your
Yeah.
different parts of who you are, especially when you feel like there's two parts that are very conflicting and contradicting, and understand
Yeah.
where this conversation is coming from. And then find the middle ground to be able to kind of tap into both strengths and find the answer that you're looking for. And I feel like that has been probably the most transformative thing for me, because there's always, I wouldn't say opposite sides, but sometimes there are different facets of who you are and your identity that probably will kind of collide one way or the other. And
Yeah.
knowing how to work on both of them shows up for you where it's building that inner leader of who you are. So it's not a matter of the control that these different facets have on you, but it's how your inner leader brings this all together that plays on the strengths of these two. And I think for me, that has been probably one of the most transformative. And I always tell my clients, parts work is so important because you find your inner leader first, and then you understand where each part of you is coming from. So you hold it with
Yeah.
empathy, you hold it with care, you hold it with gentleness, and letting it arrive in a way that it's just letting you know bits and pieces of you that complement who you are. And I love that.
Living with your shadow
Exactly.
self.
Exactly.
We were speaking about shame. You speak openly about shame. Do you think shame ever serves a purpose, or is it something we're always better off shedding or integrated with wisdom?
Well, that's a beautiful question. I think addressing it makes it less fearful to bring it together with empathy, and addressing such issues of how it kind of identified who we are or how we were brought up, tells us a story about ourselves that we need to know. And then
Yeah.
take that as part of your healing. So if we don't talk about it, if we don't bring it up, we will never confront it and confront how it's holding us back. Because a lot of this shame builds our limiting beliefs. And these limiting beliefs, if you're in a moment right now that it's not serving you, that means you need to let it go. Because it's not empowering you, it's not letting you go forward with whatever you want to achieve in life. And I feel like that's why addressing it is so crucial and so important for you to understand yourself more. When we say create this awareness,
Yeah.
and I build the book on that, 80% is the awareness that you create about yourself, and 20% is what you do about it
Action.
once you're aware. So the more aware of yourself you are, the more you know what's limiting you, what's holding you back, what are you believing about yourself, what are you telling yourself about yourself, the more you're able to tap into empowering it in a way that will support you. And shame plays a crucial role to understand yourself and create that awareness.
That's so true, because you've actually answered my next question, because I was going to ask, what role does pain or trauma play in shaping or obscuring our access to our true
So
self? Do you
definitely.
feel?
So there are two factors of what makes people change or aspire or reach their goals. It could be either pain or pleasure, right? So pain is coming from a painful incidents, memory, something that happened to you that's holding you back or that you want to change to create a better life. Or it's pleasure that could come from passion or something that you're motivated to do. And both these serve as a way for you to create change. So look at, especially when it comes to pain, look at those incidences as kind of milestones that help you create and shift to the person
Yeah.
that you are right now.
It's like a
Exactly.
doorway. We just don't see them as
Exactly.
doorways. What are some of the most common, because we're talking about trauma and shame, and I feel because a lot of people have trauma and we have shame, we wear masks. So what are some of those most common masks that you see people wear that actually distance them from their true self?
So it's always based on fear of certain things. And the most common fear that I hear, at least my clients and in the community, is fear of other people's judgments. Some people would confront that, some people won't. And that itself can hold so many people back and just even showing up in the smallest things in life. Just not wanting to be clustered in a certain way, or shamed in a certain way, or bullied, whatever it may be, or even just called out. Even though that everything that we hear, it's in our control whether we want it to affect us or not. And I feel like a lot of people forget that they do have that control and what they can do with it in terms of setting boundaries, in terms of confronting, in terms of holding that space. But but yeah, it's that thing in terms of how can I build my own self in understanding that. So yeah.
It's always down to awareness. Now, we live in Doha, like I've mentioned, Qatar, and so everywhere, I'm from South Africa, and we have our own set of like cultural rules or whatever, societal rules. I do feel like there's a lot that melts into each other over, across the globe, that certain certain societies have expectations of us. And you speak about it a lot in the book, And how do you navigate the push and pull between inherited expectations and then your chosen truth? I mean, for anyone that's looking, I want you guys to go out and really buy this book and read about it, and you'll get into the gist of Asma's background, where she grew up. And so this question will make a lot more sense when you read the book. But I'd just love to know how you navigate that push and pull.
It still goes down to the level of awareness you are at, right? To understand what has been kind of put on you in terms of expectations, and to even question and have this very truthful talk with yourself. Is this something that I have put on myself? Is this something that I want, or is it something that has been bestowed on me based on my environment, based on other people's expectations or judgments? And I do have an exercise that kind of differentiates these two. Because even when you look, let's take, for example, people's goals on a yearly basis. You have these goals that you want to achieve. It's either, for example, you want to lose some weight, you want to drink some more water, you want to exercise, you want to be more confident, whatever it may be. If you look at the list of all these goals and ask yourself, what is truly something that represents who I am and something that I want to achieve, and what is something that I want to achieve based on other people's expectations. You'll eliminate so many goals just based on that, because from that you'll understand the purpose and the why behind why you want to achieve that goal, and it will make it easier for you to achieve. So that's something that I went through, especially when it comes to my weight and my body and how I look. There are so many expectations of what I was putting on myself in terms of I need to be in a certain weight and I look in a certain way. Yeah. And then when I just kind of like delved deeper into that, I understood it's not the image that I had for myself. I want it to be more, exactly. I want it to be, yes, more healthier in terms of being able to move more, in terms of my strength, my muscles. But it wasn't the image that they would have, others would have, of what it means to lose weight or what it means to be healthy. So even reframing that in your mind makes it easier for you to achieve that goal.
And you describe yourself as a multifaceted human. I describe myself exactly the same. I've had to come to terms with it, because people are like, oh, Lex, you've done so much. I'm like, yeah, because I feel like I have a lot to give the world. How do you honor all of your facets now, especially the ones that don't always fit in the boxes?
That's a beautiful question. I think that's one of the best realizations I got into my life. And I really appreciate me being kind of open to that, because so in the book I talk about the multi-potentialite, which is the multifaceted aspect, and it's like a realization that you were questioning your whole life, because a lot of people might have grown up in terms of needing to choose one direction, to do one thing, and you need to be great at doing that thing. But I always had this curiosity of, but I can do more. Like I can be this and I can be that. Why do I have to constrain myself in one thing? But I couldn't ever find the answer until I learned this multi-potentialite aspect of what it means and how you can kind of bring everything together. Your purpose can be one, but you can do it in a different facets of who you are, in different forms and represent it in a very beautiful, creative way. And I feel like when I got that realization, I was able to be myself even more, to be more creative, and to see how can I serve myself and others in all the different ways. So I fell in love with writing, and that's one of the reasons I got in my book. I never saw myself before as a writer, but now, so this is something I kind of constrained myself before, but where I had to be a certain mold or a certain thing. So it's one of the huge transformative realizations I had in my life, and I'm very blessed and grateful that I've gone through that.
You know, because I also have now begun to identify as a multifaceted human, and I use the word quite a lot with clients and friends and family, because I want people to stay curious about their abilities and to really look at, oh, you know, like I've taken up tennis, and if you asked me about tennis a few years ago, I would laugh at you and be like, that I don't know how to use a racket. But I thought to myself, let me see, because I don't know if I can. Let me just go try it out. And turns out I like it. I can't say I'm very good at it, but I enjoy it, and it's part of like who I am now, and it's something I can enjoy with my husband, and it's a thing that we do. But I always say to people, stay curious. If you've not tried something, think of it as a sport, maybe. Whatever it is, maybe you don't know how to cook, or maybe you don't know how to do a certain activity, or you want to write, or you want to listen to music or create music. Try it. You never know if it's, so just staying curious is, but you know, I feel like, and you'll understand this, we are always, women specifically, I'm really, really digging into this one. We grow up with the good girl syndrome. You talk about it in your book. It's a touchy subject for me. You know, I've always wanted to be a good girl. I've been told I have to be a good girl if I want to be accepted, if I want to get the good job, if I want to have a raise in my job. And so I want to ask you something really left field. If your inner rebel had a microphone, you know, what would she scream into it today?
Screw the world.
Screw the world.
You know, once I did that so it was tapping into the inner leader. But when I started to visualize my inner leader, that's exactly who I imagined it to be. This rebellious fire warrior that's like tearing everything down. I'm like, okay, wow. Coming from from a good girl syndrome to this is amazing.
I love it. I think it's absolutely freedom, it's liberation. It's liberation. And I spoke about the fact that we had a shared mission right at the beginning of this podcast, and we do. Both of us want to help women. I wanted to get you on the podcast ASAP the moment I heard you on that microphone at DWF. And not only is that our shared mission, but both of us share something on a medical level, and that is you wrote about the cysts and the back pain, and I have PCOS. I've had polycystic ovarian syndrome for a while now, and I've had surgeries for it. And I want to know how your body mirrors your emotional state. I believe that now. What does your body teach you now that it couldn't before?
So I'm still learning, Lexi. I'm still learning about this. And what I've noticed is I read the other day some research saying that the more healing you do, the more symptoms come out because you've kind of released so many things. And I'm currently at this moment right now where a lot of things is being released because I have been diagnosed also with PCOS and fibroids currently, apparently. A lot of things are all about this release of letting go of that pain, letting go of that shame, letting go of so many things that could hold us back. But sometimes we're just not listening to these different signals. We're not listening to our body. We're not listening to how powerful they are in terms of translating some of the things that we might not be able to comprehend at that moment.
So do you believe our emotional experiences manifest physically?
Oh, definitely. Especially if you hold it inside and you're not expressing it very freely, or you're not letting it go one way or the other. And this is something that I am still on a journey with. And I always talk about this, even as coaches, we're still learning. There's so many facets of things that we're adapting. Nobody is perfect. Even if you have taken this certification and you've really worked on yourself, one way or the other, you'll tap into another level that will still show you different facets of either who you are or create awarenesses that you might not be aware of. And it's always, but at the end, that's the beauty of life because it's a growing process.
I always say remain teachable. It was one of the best advice I got when I was still in corporate. And I was very lucky to work with a few very knowledgeable and very wise people. And I was so afraid of making mistakes. I was so in my good girl era. I was like, oh my God, I can't make mistakes and they'll fire me. And this person said to me, you have to make mistakes, remain teachable. If you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room.
Yes, 100%.
What would your body say if it had its own chapter in the book?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. What would my body say? So I think it would say, it's time. I don't know where this is coming from, but I'll just say what's coming to my mind right now. I love this. It's like a coaching session. So I feel like my body would say, it's time. Release what's not serving you and be more gentle with yourself.
You mentioned feeling like an alien in Qatar. What does cultural belonging mean to you now? And how do you define home when your roots and your identity stretch across places?
Just to give some context of why I chose the word alien in the book. For those that don't know, I grew up in the States due to my dad's studying there. And then at that time in 1998-99, we came back to Qatar. So there was this whole identity crisis, culture clash that happened at that time, because you're talking about Qatar, totally different than the 2000 before and where we are right now. So for me, I took on the decision to kind of close down on myself in a way to protect myself. So because of that, I became so introverted, but at the same time, I became observant, which I think is probably now a key strength that I use with my job and my work and all the things that I do. But then at that time, it was more of the mask that I was wearing and the shield that I was putting so that people will not kind of hurt the true identity of who I am, this adventurous girl that wants to go on, doesn't want to oblige to the certain standards of what it means to be a girl in this society and what's right and wrong and all of that. But looking at it right now and growing up, I was very grateful for the support system that I had around me, especially my mom and my dad, because if they haven't kind of created that safe space, I wouldn't be able to navigate the different identities of who I am to be able to kind of define Asma today. And I know this is a privilege because not everyone does have that privilege, but I'm truly blessed and grateful. And at the same time, encourage people to take on that direction, to define who you are. Culture has been bestowed by people. It's like standards of what people thought was normal at that time, traditions as well. Take what resonates with you and take what doesn't. At the end, it's who you are that shapes up what you do and your whole identity. So take on from the things that you feel are really close to your heart, that makes sense. I think that's the word, that makes sense for you, either religiously, culturally, traditionally, because that's who you are at the end. And that's what makes you unique and special in your own way.
Did you ever grieve the parts of yourself you had to outgrow in the process of becoming this woman? And what did that grieving sound or feel like?
Wow, that's a very deep question. I think yes. And I feel like, especially with something that happened recently, I'm still grieving parts of grieving and kind of letting go and forgiving parts and incidences and me where I kind of either dimmed my light or said that it was fine when it wasn't, or sacrificing myself, not confronting myself and how I feel, not giving myself that space to be who I needed to be, to show up in the way that I needed to show up. And even having that session with yourself and grieving, I love that word because there's parts of you that one day made sense, but doesn't make sense to kind of continue on. And that's okay. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to shift your mindset. It's okay to start all over again. And there's no shame in that. It's just a matter of holding yourself with gentle and care. I love the word gentle courage. And I use that a lot, even within the work that I do. How to courageously show up for yourself, but in a very gentle manner. And I think, especially us women, we need to do that more often.
I feel like we struggle as females because of, societal, whatever it is, boxes or labels that they bestow on us. We do struggle to find that gentle courage because we're always fighting to be seen and heard, and but you can be gentle and you can be courageous, and those two words fit beautifully together. There's nothing wrong with it. And I wish I could tell that to my younger self.
Same, right?
Speaking of younger self, what part of the book do you think your younger self would underline or highlight or circle again and again like a lifeline in your book?
I think the good girl syndrome, definitely. The shame is another one. And how important, I think we don't talk about this a lot, how important it is to be in the right circle of people that show up for you, that support you, that will hold you accountable and just be there for you. It's so important. Sometimes we kind of let that go and say, it's not that important, or we kind of keep people in our circles that we know are draining us, but then at the same time, it's affecting us at the end. So the importance of having the right support system is so crucial, so crucial. Having the right community to show up for yourself, or even just having that space to show up for yourself.
This is something that I'm currently struggling with, is creating or curating rather a community of women around me. I specifically say women because I'm looking for a sisterhood of women that I can sit around a coffee table with, talk about books, talk about business, talk about life, talk about the stars and everything in between. And I find it quite challenging, and this is super vulnerable and open, but I find it challenging to find women who can sit with me and not talk about other women. So I'm really doing my utmost. It's if I could put it on my vision board, it would be, and I actually have put that on my vision board, is a community that is sustainable, that is grounded in growth, that is grounded in humanity, that is grounded in forward thinking. And I've noticed that my community doesn't have to look like me. They don't have to come from the same place as me. They don't have to have the same life experience. And I've learned that I don't have to show my scars or show my battle wounds in order to connect. So that's been a huge part of this journey for me. And your book has been one of those. When I I talk about meeting you at DWF, and this sounds very fangirly, but I was like, I need to get Asmaa for a coffee. We need to go grab a coffee. I want to sit with you. I could have spoken to you all day, but it was a busy day that day.
We should do that, by the way.
We had a lot going on, but we need to do that. We need to grab a coffee for sure, and just find the women that speak the language. And your whole book, it was so easy for me to read this book. I felt like I was just speaking to a friend or listening to a friend speak. It was, I cannot thank you enough for the book. And that leads me to, what question do you secretly hope a reader asks you when they finish the final page?
Question, right? I need to think about that with your costume. What I would like them to ask me at the end of reading the book is, were you able to find your that?
That's actually such a good question. Right at the beginning of your book, you talk about the crooked tree. It's just to give people some context, Asmaa refers to a song. It's called Crooked Tree. And when I saw it, I stopped. I was sitting in the car. I read your book on the metro. I read your book in the car. I read your book on the couch. I read it all over. And I was sitting in the car at the time. I was waiting for my husband, and I was reading that part. So I immediately stopped, got into my Spotify, and went to go find the song. And I put the song on while I was reading that part of the book. And so for the listeners, it's by Golden Highway and Molly Tuta, I think, yeah. It's a very country song. I did not expect it to be country. It's a beautiful song. And crooked trees, they say in the song that crooked, and you also mentioned crooked trees are meant to grow wild. And I reflected on these words. I stopped at the title of the song to listen. I didn't read on. I first listened to the song and then let it play. I resonated so much to the music. And after listening to the song and then reading your notes afterwards, I read what you wrote. It's as if we were in the same brain. God. Because my whole life, I have always felt like a crooked tree. I didn't fit anywhere. I wanted to be different. And then I was bullied because I was different. And I just wanted to be different because I felt like that's what we all should be. If we're the same, it's super boring.
Oh, that makes me so emotional.
If your book had a soundtrack, what genre or artists would be on it? And what's the one song that is this book in sound form?
Lexi and your questions. Okay. Wait, no. They're amazing. They're making me think and be present with myself. I think the first thing that came to my mind, which is something that also comes from the multi-potentialite, I don't have a specific genre. Like people say, like, what's your favorite? I'm like, I don't have a favorite. Like, I like everything. I listen to everything.
Yeah, it's only if the music speaks to you. It doesn't matter what genre it is. If the lyrics and the music, it really speaks to the soul, that's the music I want.
Spot on. And that's why we're connecting on this level.
Yes.
Like, as you said, the Crooked Tree was a country song. I love all different genres. And I feel like every part and every chapter of the book, I can hear a different song. So you'll have the calm, soothing, like holding you very in a safe space song. You'll have kind of like the fiery out of the warrior that's like,
I don't know if you know Avril Lavigne, the singer. I just thought of that with Good Girl Syndrome.
I love her. So it's everywhere. It's the powerful song. I love Kelly Clarkson. I love Turkish music that's very sad. I love everything.
But that's what makes you so multifaceted and beautiful. And that's what makes this book so beautiful, because it speaks to all those different parts of you. Your rebellious side, but your courageous, gentle side, and then the quiet parts of yourself. It really speaks that way.
If I would have to choose one song, I think it would be Kelly Clarkson, What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger.
That's a good song. She also has another song, but it's about cheating.
Wait, which one?
I'll dug my key into the side of his car. Yeah. Oh, no, sorry. That's a different one. That's not Kelly Clarkson. That's somebody else. Sorry, Kelly, if she ever listens to this. You spoke about multifaceted human beings, and you reference the TED Talk by Emily Wapnick that actually came from, on not having one true calling. How did embracing this change, or how did, embracing that you don't have one true calling change your self-perception?
Oh, so much.
Because
it has changed so much. I think that was one of the biggest aha moments I had in my life. to be able to say that this is exactly how I feel and what I go through, and this is me. They're just like showing up as who
Yeah.
I am. Even when they talk about like introverts and extroverts, when I came to this concept of being an ambivert, I'm like, yes, this is exactly who I am. Because I think it
Yeah.
comes from the multifaceted aspect of you being able to tap into different parts of you. So you do need that part where you need to be that introvert of energizing yourself and having that space and time for
Yeah.
yourself
Filling your
exactly to
cup.
fully recover, but then still have that space to be the most extroverted person and going and talking to people and just being that
Create community.
exactly and be that social butterfly like they say. For me, it was
Absolutely.
just like the missing piece of the puzzle in my mind of how I identify myself. And as I said, it was probably one of the biggest transformations I had. I always tell people when they look at my journey, even like my work journey in terms of what I studied, where I worked, getting the coaching into it, the digital aspect of it, building communities. Everyone, they're like, when people say, they're like, but what are you doing? Where are you going with all of this? Until you come to a
Yeah.
point in life, you're like, it's actually all of it coming together because all these different
Yes.
experiences are one way or the other keeping bringing in the puzzle of my life. And even in the work that I do right now, everything that I've done is showing up. I feel like
It's the anatomy of life.
exact.
As you were speaking, I'm like, girl, this is the same conversation I had with myself when I was picking a name for this podcast. I was like, it's everything. It's everything in your
There
life.
you go. It is the anatomy.
And what do you say to those struggling with the pressure to pick one path?
I would say if you look at it in a more holistic way of looking at the bigger picture, because I'm a very bigger picture person, when you're having that pressure, that means you're letting what others perceive of you come into your life. So rather than feeling the pressure of just needing to choose one, trial and error, because when you make failure your best friend, that's when you'll know what actually works for you and what doesn't. A lot of people live their lives with one facet of their life, and that's also okay. It's a matter of
Yeah.
choice, and I always talk and I talk about it a lot in the book. Like even not choosing is also a choice. So when you're not choosing what you don't want in your life, that means you're allowing it to happen, and that itself is a choice. So don't let the pressure of needing to be in a certain standard or a certain way of who you are deviate you from exploring and understanding what you actually want and take the time for it. It's not a matter of a deadline that you have in your life. A lot of people are still figuring it out. A lot of people start later in their life, people start early in their life. There's no set deadline of how you take on this journey. It's just a matter of realizing that today is the day that I change my life into the life that I deserve. And that starts everything.
Absolutely. You know, we're coming towards the end, and at the end of each episode, I like to ask my guests something I call the invisible impact or legacy
All right.
question. I believe each of us have an impact on the lives we touch, often in ways we can't see directly. So, as we wrap this up, Asmaa, I'd love to know what's one unseen or invisible impact you hope to leave behind, not just from our conversation today, but in your life's work.
I think this is something I always internalize and tell myself, what's the good that I can leave in this world? And that could be in the simplest manner. It doesn't have to be a huge legacy. It doesn't even have to be the book. What is that simple thing that I can really kind of carve into people's lives and say that, yes, Asma has left that as in, okay, it goes back to the word that, but
Yes.
but that could be a smile, that could be a gesture, that could be a huge thing like the book, it could be whatever it may be. I feel like it's in those small moments where when people reflect on their time with you, they can see that impact and that legacy. And I really hope with everything that I'm doing through the book, through the coaching, through the community building, whatever it may be, to feed on that legacy and hope to build it so that people know that this is kind of the imprint that Asma has on them.
Asmaa, thank you so much for joining me on the Anatomy of Life. Where can people check out your socials? Have you got a website? And I will share also in the bio, and with the links, I'll share where they can go find the book. But give us your handle, your socials,
Definitely.
and so on.
First of all, thank you, Lexi, for having me. This was such a beautiful conversation. They can find me on Instagram at coach_Asmaa. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on TikTok. And if you want to know more about all the different services, the community, you're not alone or anything, you can find it on www.coachasmaa.com. You'll find all the information there. And yes, I will give you the handles for anyone that's looking for me on social media. For the book in Doha, they can find it either in Virgin Megastore or Alif Bookstore. And internationally, you can find it on Amazon. You can find it through my publisher, the Dreamwork Collective. If you search the book Back to That, Asmaa Alkuwari, you'll find every single version of it. If you want audio, if you want Kindle, if you want an actual book, you can hear my voice. And now I'll be truly speaking to you, speaking my voice to you. That was so fun to record. It took so much, but it was such a nice experience. And yeah.
Amazing. There are stories that sit on the surface, and then there are stories that get under the skin. Back to That is a reminder that wholeness is a remembering, a quiet return to what was never lost. Today's conversation reminded me that we are all multifaceted humans made of crooked trees and soft rebellions, shame and shimmering resilience. So wherever you are in your becoming, you are not behind, you are not broken, you are on your way back to that. Thank you for being part of the Anatomy of Life community. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review. It helps people find the show, or share it with a friend who would love it too. Until next time, keep learning, reading, and growing. And here is to your health.